Hello, friends. I just finished a conversation with Romy Parzick, the CEO of Vault, which, in addition to being a great business, is also one of our portfolio companies. We cover her journey and what led her to build a company that does well by doing good, and the future of Vault as an educational assistance business. I know you'll enjoy the conversation, so without further ado, I'll turn it over to Romy and myself. Thanks for watching. Romy, it's nice to see you. Thanks so much for making the time today.
Of course. Great talking to you, Fraser. Thanks for having me.
So I think, unfortunately, you are actually a new face to the program. I'm a little bit shocked by that, but for the viewers who don't recognize you, could you start off by telling us a little bit about your background and what you're excited about building at Vault?
Sure. So I'm Romy Parzick. I'm based in Austin, Texas. I lead Vault, which is a student loan assistance company. Actually, we're transitioning to be more of an educational assistance company. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more. I've spent decades in financial services and fintech, really since I got my MBA at Duke. And I've been focused on this idea that before it was cool, that companies can do well by aligning their success with the success of their customers, clients, users. So I was into that in business school years ago, and that felt like sort of a tree hugging kind of viewpoint. And now it's a very cool and popular thing to be a fan of. But that's really what draws me to Vault, is this idea that we can do well as a company and support our clients by helping them improve the financial situation of their employees.
Well, that's fantastic. And we touched on one of your products, which is around specifically student loan repayment. I suspect that most people would feel student loan repayment as an employee benefit is sort of the ultimate no-brainer, since folks quite naturally don't want to participate in their 401k program if they have large student loan balances. But aside, from the obvious just sort of need and desire to have such a thing, are there perhaps less intuitive reasons that employers need to offer this kind of solution to be competitive?
Yeah, I think a good example are all the clients that we have in the healthcare space. So obviously we're in a global pandemic, and attracting and retaining nurses has been very challenging because they're facing, unfortunately, really grim frontline daily work. And so our clients, where we've seen the most growth in terms of the student loan repayment, are our healthcare clients with frontline workers, particularly with nurses. And especially when elective surgeries were being delayed and postponed, and I know we're going sort of in and out of cycles where that's happening, the first instinct is, well, let's look at other benefits and see if we can cut those benefits because, we're not bringing in enough revenue. And I guess lucky for Vault, we're a benefit that stays, that has staying power, even when they're looking at cost cutting, because we have sort of a proven track record, especially with those frontline workers. So one hospital in particular just did a study where they had like an A/B test, right? And so it's a group of nurses that didn't have the benefit, a group of nurses that did. And they found a 55% increase in retention, which actually translated to about $5 million in talent management costs. So there was just a clear ROI that it makes sense for them to continue to invest in the student loan payments for their employees. And then, back to this idea of doing well by doing good by your users, the average nurse actually took about 64 months off of the time to pay their loan.
Oh, wow.
So there's just really wins all around. And that's why we're seeing our healthcare portfolio grow. And even the existing clients we have, we're seeing them add more and more nurses, especially to the platform.
I mean, that's fantastic to hear. I think the employee retention use case is not talked enough about. And I mean, $5 million in savings for one hospital is pretty remarkable. And I know, this whole topic of student debt is very much a hot button issue in Washington. We've had conversations internally at Vestigo. I know you talked to Mike about it, but could you give us maybe an update on sort of general political tailwinds from Washington for the business?
Absolutely. So I think there's three things that I would point to. One is at the end of 2020, the Consolidated Appropriations Act actually expanded the definition of tuition reimbursement to include student loan payments. So up until that point, if an employer made a student loan payment on like contribution on behalf of the employer to the employee, that was not tax advantaged in any way. It was regular, ordinary income. Since that Consolidated Appropriations Act expanded the definition of what's allowed, an employer can do up to $52.50 per employee per year of payments toward their student loans, and they don't have to pay payroll taxes on that, and then it's not included in the employee's ordinary income. So that's really a huge tailwind. One that hasn't quite come to bear, but will come to bear soon, is when the CARES Act passed in the summer of 2020. What it did, it paused all federal student loans. But that pause, although it's been extended and extended and extended, seems pretty clear that it's going to end in January of this upcoming year. And so what that does, it brings just, billions of student loans back online, which will increase the pressure for employers to help their employees. In some cases, employees are just going to be so backed up in terms of not having been used to paying for their student loan for almost 2 years now. So that will be coming. The administrative forbearance ends at the end of January. And the last thing I would add is there's a lot of momentum around the Secure Act 2.0, which is basically legislation that will modernize the retirement industry in different ways. And one of the provisions in there, and there's still a long way to go to pass it, but all our retirement partners feel very bullish about it passing, in the near term, is the provision is that it would allow matching into a 401k based on an employee's student loan payments. So it'll expand the number of people that are able to get that match for their employer by simply continuing what they're already doing, which is paying their student loans. So that would be a really, really huge tailwind. And we do feel that there's a high likelihood that that will happen in the near term.
It doesn't seem like it should be particularly controversial. And another thing that you had mentioned earlier was the sort of education assistance evolution of the business. Could you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Vault was founded in 2013. For years, we've been really laser focused on student loan assistance benefits, an employer helping their employee in different ways with supporting them with their student loans. Because of some of the tax changes and because of, honestly, client demand for expanding our benefits, what we've done is just looked more holistically at the journey of a person. Like, why do we only help them once they're saddled with student loan debt, right? Can we start earlier in the life cycle? Can we help with tuition reimbursement? Can we help with college planning? Can we help by allowing the employer to make payments into 529s? So we've added those benefits to really round out our suite of offerings and to also enable employers to support employees all along that journey of education.
That makes a ton of sense and super exciting. And rumor has it that CEOs are quite busy. So I am going to let you go, but before you go, do you have any asks for the viewers? How can those that are watching learn more about Vault and work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously you can go to vault.co and learn more about our products. So invite you to do that. Also, I guess I would ask folks to really step out of their own educational journey and really think more broadly about the new economic factors in place. I'll give a personal story to highlight that. When my parents moved to the States in the late 70s, early 80s, my dad got a $3,000 loan to get a PhD. And yes, he worked nights, he worked weekends, he had lots of jobs, but he managed to get through, a terminal degree with $3,000 in student loan debt. 30 years later, when I go to get my MBA, I exit with hundreds of thousands of student loan dollars in debt. So what I ask viewers is to just think, like, the world has really changed and wages have not grown at the pace that, like, the price tag of education has grown. And so sometimes we have people say, well, like, I paid my way through college, and why should we help employees when I was able to just get that extra job and pay my way through college? And I think it really takes someone sort of stepping out of maybe their own journey to get their education and understand, like, the world, unfortunately, has, especially in the US, has made education very, very expensive. And if you are especially looking to support a diverse workforce, something like student loan assistance or educational assistance is really important in doing that.
Well, that's fantastic and extremely eloquently put. I will hopefully, and I really, really hope it's soon, see you for barbecue either in Austin or in Cambridge, because we do have good barbecue near our office that we could presumably get you fish or something since you're coming up from Austin. But I do hope we'll see you soon.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. Bye, Romy.